Welcome everyone once again to Reimagining the Magic on this fine November 26, 2017. I am Katie.
And I'm Julie.
And this week's episode is nothing but Disney news. We'll be talking about the issues in America surrounding net neutrality and the FCC, which of course affects things like this podcast. We'll also be talking about the latest release from Pixar and Disney, Coco, and we'll be discussing some news regarding people in power at Disney after we talk about Coco. So stay tuned and keep listening. And Julie would like to say some thank yous.
We'd like to thank all of our new followers, especially over on Facebook. We noticed we had a huge influx last week, so we're doing something right. So welcome to our little family. And just a side note, we do have a group that you can join as well if you want to discuss. We are both in that group, so if any discussion points you guys would like to have, feel free to post in there. We'll be around, and we'd love to see you.
Yes, definitely join the group. I'm going to try to start linking to the group in our YouTube stuff and Breach and everything else. People can find it and go right to it. And, of course, you can find it on our Facebook page. As always, we are sponsored and brought to you by Breach Media. That is BREACH.TV. We upload our podcasts on there in video form, and many other people do too. But it's not just podcasts. There's movie clips, independent music videos, home videos, comedy, and so much more. If you've got it on camera, put it up on Breach, because everything also has ads enabled, so you can have ad revenue made from your content on there. Isn't that great? I think it's great. So now, on to the episode, and of course, as always, at a time like this, we have to talk net neutrality. Julie, can you tell people what net neutrality is?
Net neutrality is a law in the books that basically says that the internet cannot be, the access to the internet cannot be controlled by any ISP provider. Everyone has to have equal access. However, if Ajit Pai and all his cronies over at the FCC have their way, they will be voting to get rid of those laws, which will make it possible for internet providers to pretty much implement a fast lane and also block access. Basically, they can do whatever they want. They can. Okay, here's a really good way to think about it that I saw online. Think about your cable package. You can choose the basic package, but you don't get access to certain channels that you may want, like entertainment channels. A lot of them are not included in the basic package. So to get those channels, you would have to pay more. So if you, like Verizon, let's say I have Verizon they're my phone provider. If Verizon up and decides that, we don't want basic users to be able to access YouTube anymore, you have to pay more for this. Well, suddenly somebody who we don't have TV here. We have YouTube and we have Netflix. That's it. Somebody whose main source of entertainment is YouTube would suddenly have to pay more to access that site. Now, another thing they can do is create a fast lane. So let's say Verizon decides, and I'm using Verizon as the example because Ajit Pai happens to be one of their former lawyers. So they're definitely proponents of what's going on. So let's say that they create their own streaming service. And that streaming service is competing with Netflix. Well, they can put Netflix at a slower rate, download rate or streaming rate than their own product. So where it may take, let's say, maybe 15 seconds to fully load a whole video on their product, they could slow down Netflix and say, it's going to take 30 seconds to a minute, and make it super inconvenient for people to use it. And that's not really fair because it really discourages innovation. It discourages people from creating new products that compete with these larger companies because they'll automatically be put in the slow lane before they even get a chance to get off the ground. So customers will end up paying more. Pretty much all customers will bear the brunt of this, but small businesses will also bear the brunt of it. So if you support small businesses and you also don't want to be swindled out of your money, then go. Should we plug John Oliver's website on here, even though we're a family-friendly podcast?
I would agree, definitely doing so. Disclaimer, John Oliver's show on HBO, Last Week Tonight, it is on HBO, which is a premium cable station, so a lot of his content isn't outright lewd or sexual, but he makes jokes about it. Basically, he uses swear words and makes jokes that aren't kid-friendly.
Right.
That's fair to say.
And he actually, on YouTube, on the Last Week Tonight channel, there is a fantastic breakdown, a 30-minute breakdown on net neutrality. So if you want more information than my little spiel, which most of it is taken from there, go check it out. It's extremely funny and extremely poignant. But the website he set up was gofccyourself.com. If you click there, it will redirect you immediately to the site where you can tell Congress not to repeal these laws, tell them to vote no for this. And there's also concern that they may not be taking these requests seriously, so please also call your congressman, fax them, do whatever you can, let them know that they represent you and you do not, and you want them to keep net neutrality. It is extremely important, and it will, if we lose net neutrality, it will change the face of the internet forever, and we don't want to see that. It will change how we access information and who can access it. It's extremely important. They vote on December 14th, so get your comments, your phone calls, your fax messages, your texts, whatever your choice of contacting is, get it done before then, because that is coming up real fast.
A great case would be, in fact, our sponsor, Breach. Our sponsor, Breach, is a place where people can share and host different kinds of media, but they're not a big company like Google, which owns YouTube, or like Netflix, or like Hulu, or like all these other apps and companies that are huge, multi-billion-dollar operations for hosting and sharing content. They would quite likely be put in the slowest lane possible if these rules were implemented, unless they could somehow fork over the money for these ISPs to be able to be put in the fast lane the same as they would if Netflix were willing to pay or YouTube were willing to pay, etc. So these new companies that want to help you showcase your media and your individual creative content would be much harder to access and much harder to use and much slower to use because of these limitations, because these companies just want to make more money.
Right. So yeah, net neutrality is extremely important. Let your Congress, call your representatives, call your senators, let them know that we want net neutrality to stay. We don't want to lose this wonderful free internet that we experience now.
Yeah, because even us as podcasters, without net neutrality, we could upload, as we do, to Breach, to YouTube, to a bunch of audio hosts that will then send things over to Stitcher and whatnot. But without net neutrality, it will decrease the chance that people could even find us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if you wanted to start your own podcast, it would make it difficult for people to find you without you basically telling people, hey, go around and share this. And I know a lot of people who find that kind of stuff to be kind of annoying. Where hey, go share this. Hey, go share this. When you pester them to do that for you. So
yeah, if you hate when you watch or listen to content online, people begging you to like and share and subscribe, if you find that really annoying, it's going to get 10 times annoying if this were to pass.
Right, because they will depend on people doing that to get their voice out there. And if it so happens that their platform is being throttled by a certain service provider or even blocked by a certain service provider, they will lose part of their audience and they will lose part of their income.
And also, many of the content you enjoy, whether it's audio, video, whatever, may have to resort to things like Patreon if they can't rely on enough reliable outside sponsors, or outside sponsors can't find them as easily anymore to get money. And so if, let's say, you enjoy over a dozen creators and their shows, and they're asking, for, even if it's just $1 or more, most people ask for at least $5 for the bare minimum. That's quite a lot out of your pocket. That's the same as paying for like a Netflix or a Hulu subscription.
Right, exactly. And I mean, I know people. There are creators that I support on Patreon. Shout out to the Interdimensional RSS who have been listening to us. They've been wonderful. I'm actually part of their Discord, and they are great people. If you haven't listened to them, you like Rick and Morty, go listen to them. But I'm one of their Patreon subscribers, and I give that money willingly because I enjoy it. But I know that it might end up off-putting to people who may not have a whole lot of money if suddenly they're like think of Philip DeFranco. If he took his content, his news, what he does is so important because he does what he can to present an mostly unbiased reporting on YouTube. And it would be a shame to lose that because he would suddenly have to put it behind a paywall. Like if he moved all of his content to DeFranco Elite or put it on a Patreon, that would be a huge loss because what he does is present the news.
Yeah, there's a big difference between supporting creators on Patreon during this era of free internet because you want to support them and you enjoy their work, than feeling compelled to do so because they absolutely need it.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, because you have no other choice. It would be like, let me put it this way. My favorite YouTuber is Markiplier. I love watching his stuff. If he suddenly had to put it behind a paywall on Patreon, I would not be able to afford to watch it. And that would break my heart because I very much enjoy his videos. But I wouldn't be able to access it anymore. And I know that a lot of his user base is younger, or I guess not user, but fan base is younger. Many of them aren't even out of high school yet, may not have jobs, may not be able to have a subscription like that. So, you suddenly have you have the ad revenue from YouTube, and you probably see a dramatic decrease in ad revenue if it were to all move to paid subscriptions because there was no other way.
And part of why he can afford to do his channel he does it is now he's currently doing tours, of course, but he's always had ad revenue from advertisers and sponsors in the forms of game companies and people sending swag and stuff for him to advertise. He's had that. But it'll be a lot harder for YouTube creators to get those sponsors and even for them to be able to get ad revenue because it'd be harder for advertisers to see the merit in paying these companies to put their ads in if less people are able to get through the throttle and be able to watch these websites.
Right. So it's very important to pretty much everyone. I mean, and the other way to think about it is there's a lot of free information on the internet. Imagine a site like Wikipedia getting throttled or, let's see. I'm trying to think.
What if all of your school websites got throttled?
Yeah. What if you're, sitting there at campus and whatever internet provider your community college uses because they can't fork over the money to have a special lane for themselves. Suddenly it takes forever for you to do your homework.
And another YouTube example is Jenna Marbles. Yes, she does do sponsors for her podcasts and other outside things, but her main channel, she rarely ever does product placements or sponsors. All of her main channel stuff is just ad revenue. That would be taken away if YouTube got throttled because she would lose a lot less income. She would essentially be forced to put her stuff behind a paywall, at least most of her stuff behind a paywall, when for, since 2010, millions upon millions of people have enjoyed her funny videos, now will no longer be able to.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, net neutrality is a huge issue. Like I said, there's tons of resources out there. I mentioned Philip DeFranco. He has some videos on it. John Oliver's video is probably the best video out there explaining it. And of course, we'll plug his site again. Go FCC yourself. That is
College Humor put out a really good video about it because it does affect one other thing. Okay, kids, if you're under 18, cover your ears, turn off your speakers. It will affect your porn.
Oh, I saw the sites that were talking about that, and oh yeah, it will affect that as well. I mean, it will affect so many aspects of life that we take for granted now And those changes could come as soon as early next year. As soon as that vote gets passed, if it does, the internet as you know it will no longer exist. And people will begin to be able to restrict access to information, and that is never a good thing. Information should always be free. As somebody who got a degree in English, information is vital. Information, the written word, the spoken word, is all vital. Communication is needed, and the internet now is the biggest way we communicate. So we cannot lose our free access to that. We cannot suddenly find ourselves paying for packages just to go to sites like Wikipedia or Encyclopedia Britannica, or websites with lots of information. News websites could be blocked by certain providers if they don't particularly like what they say. You won't be able to cross-reference and fact-check. It would be such a loss to not have the open, free access to information that we have now. So please take this seriously and do what you can to make sure that net neutrality stays.
If you want a way to be able to fight back just using the internet, if you don't have the ability to call or anything, there is a tool called ResistBot. You can Google it. It allows you through Facebook Messenger. It'll ask you for basic information like your zip code and whatnot, so it can find the representatives closest to you and let them know the cause you want to fight, and it'll tell you how to construct your letter. You send it to them, and then it automatically will mail and fax it to your representative.
And they do take this stuff seriously. I recently emailed my representative, our congressman, representative, House Rep. Sorry, I don't know what just happened there. It's late. Regarding the repeal of the Marine Mammal Protection Act, and I guess about a week later, there was an incident with the form that I was filling out where I had typed everything up and then I clicked in the wrong spot and it sent me forward, and I went back and finished the edits I was making and then sent it. Well, I forgot to uncheck the I don't need a call back, and I mean a couple of days later, sure enough, I got a call and the caller ID said Washington D.C. and he was like, it was one of the guy's aides and wanted to follow up with me. So they do take it seriously. It does make a difference. So make your voice heard. Go out there, let them know we want net neutrality.
And we can only hope that the people with influence over this FCC director also take it seriously and take it seriously enough. But there's always hope.
Yes, there's always hope. And the only thing we can do is use our voices.
Power to the people. That's why America was founded.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what Walt Disney would feel about this.
Gosh, I feel like I don't think he'd like it. I think that I feel like he would find it disgusting. I think he would think that people not having access to learning, and I mean, Walt Disney grew up. He saw places like Nazi Germany, and he watched. I guess he would have been a child when all that went down, but he would have known. He would have seen all that would happen, and the restriction, how restricting information can affect a society. So I think that he would find people even thinking about the possibility that they could restrict certain information to be terrifying.
And as we all know, he was definitely for sure anti-communist.
Right.
He played a huge role in the Cold War against the oppression of the Soviet regime. And so anything that would restrict free speech and information and innovation, he would have been against. And just think about the messages of Tomorrowland and Epcot, things he dreamed to create. It's all about innovation.
Mm-hmm. So like I said, make sure you get your voices heard. That vote, again, happens on December 14th. So you have until probably 8 a.m. Eastern time on December 14th to make your voice known before that vote happens. And we will definitely be watching it closely here.
That's a beautiful noise.
Oh, that would be... Let me go turn that off. That would be our air conditioner kicking back on. Let me go fix that. I'll be right back. I thought I turned that off.
See, even Julie's air conditioner agrees that net neutrality is awful and you should fight it right now. See, it really agrees with me. Her air conditioner really wants you to fight net neutrality, so better, get online, look up your resources, look up representatives, get on ResistBot, and go fight.
All right, I'm back.
All right, so next on the docket, we're going to talk a bit about Disney Pixar's Coco, which you must go see right now.
I know. I was actually out of town for Thanksgiving, and so our schedules just didn't work out to where we could go see it. I am excited, though, because today it got a glowing review from Adam Savage, formerly of Mythbusters. So it has the Adam Savage seal of approval.
Yeah, and all of the animation enthusiasts, like basically anyone who's into animation that I follow, has given it a glowing review. The lowest rating I've seen it got is like a 7.5 out of 10, which is still pretty great.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, Adam Savage seal of approval. Now all we have to do is wait for the Jamie Hyneman walrus of approval.
I hope this wins the Oscar for Best Animated Feature.
I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't think it has much competition this year. I think it really, really will get a chance to shine, which would be fantastic.
I think its only competition is the other Pixar movie, Cars 3. Maybe Rock Dog?
Maybe.
And maybe Ferdinand, which comes out in December.
I was wondering when that came out.
If it's good.
Mm-hmm. I'm hoping for it. I remember reading Ferdinand to us when I was like in kindergarten, so I hope that's good.
Because Boss Baby was a cute movie, didn't do very well. However, for the other DreamWorks movie, Captain Underpants, that actually did get really good reviews. Wait,
did Boss Baby come out this year?
Yep, that came out in the spring.
Oh my gosh, I hardly remember. I got married in the spring, so that's probably why. I probably just, I was probably so busy around that time that...
So yeah, animation's been kind of a fustercluck this year.
So yeah, I really do hope that Coco gets a chance to shine, because everything I've heard has been amazing.
But Coco winning and Coco making a lot of money in the box office and on home release will tell Pixar and Disney that 1, original stories still sell, 2, original stories taking place in non-European, non-American cultures sell, 3, stories that are about people that aren't white sell. End of story.
Yeah. So we'll do a more in-depth review after Coco's been out in theaters for a little bit. We don't want to spoil it for anybody.
Yeah, 'cause it did just come out technically on Wednesday, and of course the people being busy over the holiday weekend in America probably haven't seen it yet. Some have, because sometimes people do go to the movies on holiday weekend. But also, if you're outside the U.S., Coco probably hasn't come out yet for you.
Yeah, so we'll wait a few weeks before we do the full review. But Katie did see it. It's supposedly amazing. Like I said, Adam Savage said it was good. So it is worth it. Go check it out.
The music is phenomenal. There's a lot of language use in Spanish, and there's a lot of jokes in Spanish that you only understand if you understand Spanish, which I think is A+ on Disney and Pixar's part.
Right, and if you know Spanish or learn Spanish in high school or college and just need a chance to brush up on it or work on your skills, that's kind of a great way to get back into that. And if you've got children who are maybe just learning Spanish, it's a good way to kind of immerse them in that.
And it's a beautiful movie about celebrating family and people you love.
Mm-hmm. And it's the perfect time of year to release a movie like that.
If you have grandparents or great-grandparents, it will give you the feels.
Mm-hmm. I'm waiting for the feels. I know I'm going to cry. I've cried at every Pixar movie I've ever seen. I cried at Finding Dory, but that's because as somebody with ADHD, I know what it's like to feel like you can't remember anything. And I was like, Dory, come here, let me hug you.
I cried at Finding Dory, but I cried at the most random part. I cried at Finding Dory. You know that scene where the Bailey the beluga breaks out of the enclosure into the open ocean?
Mm-hmm.
That made me cry. Because
Oh,
I'm like, Bailey, that water is the warm temperature for you.
right, right. You gotta swim north, go.
Go north now. That's California. It's too warm.
The third finding like X movie is just about
Finding
him
Bailey.
going up and
Finding
yeah,
Bailey.
but Bailey like finding his family again.
It's like, I need to find my family. Where are they? You gotta keep going north. Listen to the music.
Still hoping for that whale movie, Disney. We're giving you ideas.
Find Bailey, find Bailey, find Bailey. It was kind of lip-siding about Finding Dory that for all the work they did after seeing Blackfish to make the place not look like a SeaWorld and look like they really cared about the animals, there were still some very questionable husbandry practices.
Right.
Like that horrific touch tank.
Oh my god. Oh my gosh, I broke. So for people who don't know me personally, I have a reactive airway syndrome, where if I start coughing, I can't stop. And so if anything irritates my throat, I start coughing, and that's basically just what happened. So I broke.
You're breaking in reaction to just not them doing their research all the way.
Oh, and that I feel like we actually have an episode planned out about all of this, but can we talk about the truck that they were like transporting all the fish in?
Those were not very well secured tanks.
Not just that, overcrowded.
Very overcrowded. You're not even supposed to, like, in regular, like, house fish tanks, and you get those little tetras, you're not supposed to have, like, more than 5 max of those little fish in a tank.
Yeah. Well, it depends on tank size, but the rule of thumb I've heard, which is a total myth, is one fish per gallon. It doesn't work that way. It depends on the type of fish.
It's about depending on the size of the fish, it's about 1 or 2 fish per 10 gallons.
Mm-hmm, yeah, because the tank has to be able to handle the bioload. And well, like I said, we'll talk about all of this in another episode, because let me tell you something. Fish keeping is fascinating. Now, I only keep marimo, which are like little algae balls, or not algae. Yes, algae balls. But I don't keep any live fish just because we're not allowed to have aquariums on the second floor of our apartment. But I do have marimo, and I have kept fish in the past. And I wish I knew what I know now.
So, I'm back on the subject of Coco. The music is phenomenal. I hope that one of the songs wins an Oscar and a million other awards. It's beautiful. It's amazing. The character designs are great. The background designs are great. The creature designs are great. It's so colorful and well lit. You don't have to watch it in 3D, but you should if you can afford it. It's an amazing movie. Make sure Disney gets all the money for it.
Yeah. And now is going to be a very, very important time to let Disney know that we want more original content.
Yeah, considering next year it's just Wreck-It Ralph 2 and Incredibles 2.
And not just that, our next subject will tell you why. I know we don't want to have to talk about it, but we do. We do want to have to talk about it, but we wish we didn't have to talk about it. But it's important. It's extremely important, and I know that if you have been anywhere near the news lately, you're probably tired of hearing about this, but we can't stop talking about it because it's important.
Well, one of the lessons in Coco is you have your idols, and they may disappoint you, and may not be always what you expect. So on the topic of John Lasseter. Yeah.
Oh, he was accused of some inappropriate touching and some sexual harassment.
For those of you who do not know John Lasseter or only know him by name, he is one of the original people to helm Pixar. He even helmed the production house that existed before Pixar became Pixar. If, for example, the studio that did Brave Little Toaster, he was part of that. And he, along with Steve Jobs and everyone else, helmed the early ages of Pixar. And he's been with Pixar pretty much the whole time. He is, next to Pete Docter and some others, he's the Pixar guy. And starting in the 2000s, he also got hired to head Disney Animation as well. So he is the guy now for Disney Animation.
Or was, as he has stepped down, actually.
Yep.
He stepped down ahead of the release of the accusations.
Which was smart of him.
Right. So, and that's why I say that it's important that we let Disney know right now, going forward, that we want original content because we want them to be confident enough to try and make this stuff in the absence of John Lasseter.
And I'm hoping that there's, with him gone, more female people take the lead on these projects.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I feel so bad for the people who were affected by that. It's just, I never, sometimes some accusations don't shock me. I'm just like, you know what? That is totally in line with who that person is. But I guess I never really ever considered the fact that John Lasseter could be one of them. But it's very important that we talk about it and expose these people, and that we, let victims know we support them, that they can come out and say what they need to say, and let their harassers and assaulters know that we will not stand for this anymore.
We absolutely do need to support the victims and the people who have gone through this, and I think this is just another reason why all of these big companies need more diversity of people in charge, more women and more people of color in positions of power. Mm-hmm. So it's not just men and white men who have all this control and power, and everyone else feels like they kind of have to do whatever these guys say. There's a diverse amount of people in power, so if something happens, they have someone that they can have confidence will believe them to go to help them out and prevent things from escalating.
Right. I mean, the Me Too movement has been extremely strong and has been extremely supportive of the women that have come out and said, this has happened to me. It's happened to me. It happened to me twice. It happened to me at 18, and it happened to me just a couple of years ago. Gosh, how many? Well, I guess it was a little more than a couple of years ago now. Gosh, it happened in 2011? Late 2011, early 2012. So, 5 or 6 years ago. Let me put it this way. So, when I was in college, I was DD for my friends. I was designated driver for my friends a lot. And we were hanging out at a place where one of my friends bartended. And so we were all just there hanging out. And I was talking to someone that I knew and someone I didn't know. And that person that I didn't know touched me inappropriately after he asked me if he could. And I specifically said no. So it's very important to me that these women are believed, because I have experienced it, and it's not fun. It is not fun. I mean, I was in like boots and jeans and a turtleneck and like a faux leather jacket. I mean, it can happen to anyone.
It really can. The first time I was kind of aware of it happening to me, I was in a public place. I was at a convention where there were plenty of young people and old people running around having a good time. I was wearing trip pants and one of those kind of goth punk long t-shirts with like the fishnet sleeves in it. Just, let's just say it was nothing skimpy. Put it that way. Mm-hmm. It takes a lot to get into that. And someone still had the nerve to let my guard down and get me alone and secluded enough to do things to me, to the point where I had bruises on my upper body. And people didn't believe me.
Yeah, it can literally happen to anyone. It doesn't matter what you wear. It doesn't matter where you go. It doesn't matter what you're drinking or what you're not drinking. It can happen to anyone, and that's why it's so important that we believe women and give them the space that they need to come forward when they do. They may not, now they don't initially come forward because they may feel ashamed. They may feel that others will blame them for it. When, like I said, I wasn't doing anything wrong when it happened to me. I mean, I was just standing there talking to somebody that I knew was standing there. Now, he was drunk. He didn't remember. He probably doesn't remember. I haven't talked to him in years, but both of them had alcohol in them and were, I was just standing there chatting with them, and I felt completely safe. I was like, I was like, whatever. I know this person. I'm in a public place. There's 200 other people here. Like, and it still happened. So it is very important that we believe women, because it takes a lot of courage to come forward and talk about that kind of stuff.
And in all fields and workplaces, it's very hard for women or anyone in a lesser position who is treated in such a way to come forward, because they fear people not believing them, or losing their jobs, or getting demoted, or getting passed up on for a promotion that's rightfully theirs because of it. Whole lot of reasons. So a lot of them choose to stay quiet and just have to deal with it, or they're told to deal with it because for people in their position it's part of the job, especially if you work in technology, or you work in the film industry or anything like that. You don't even have to be an actor or an actress in the film industry. You can be someone who's a writer, or another director, or a producer, or someone who operates a camera, whatever it is. Someone in a position of power above you can feel the need to do something with you and hold it above you so you don't fight back.
Right. And that's just not right. It's not right. And anybody who does that should be outed, and should be people should come out and say, this person did this to me, because that is, I mean, it's an abuse of power, and it's not the way, I mean, I'm going to sound super naive for saying this, but that's not the way that the world should work.
Yes. In my time working in the film industry, as well as working as a model, I've been told by countless people that, if I wanted to get photos done by this really amazing photographer, that, sometimes if he's really into shooting a model, he's going to want to get feely and get frisky with them. And the only way to get photos with that person and have them turn out well and him to promote you is to do that, even if you're not comfortable. And in the world of film, if you want that promotion, or you want that role, or you want this person to, say something glowing about you to get a better job, you gotta suck it up, buttercup, and let them do what they want to do, or else you don't have a chance.
Yeah, and that's just not right. It should be based on your talent. Like, if you have the talent, people should consider you. It shouldn't be based on whether or not you're willing to bend to these powerful people's demands.
Some of the worst things I see is that women who already are in, high positions of their jobs, but, either want to move higher or just be safe where they are, the person above them is in a position of power and has an interest in them and pursues them, and then makes a threat that is like, okay, if you don't get with me, your job's at stake.
Right.
Like, if you don't do this, or you do this but then change your mind and tell people about it, I'm going to tell everyone that, you're a dirty, kind of person. That ruined your reputation.
Right. And that was kind of the vibe that I got when I was reading the story about John Lasseter, was that the women who this happened to kind of just shrugged it off and went, well, that's just part of the job. That's just part of being employed by John Lasseter, which is so wrong on so many levels, that's how they think, that's not supposed to come with any kind of job. I mean, the story that was reported was that I guess there was someone who was in a meeting with John Lasseter and another woman who worked with him, and she said that she normally wore pants, but that day she hadn't done the laundry in a while and had a skirt on, and had to put her hand over her knee to keep Lasseter from touching her on the knee, because she knew he would do it if she didn't, and she wasn't wearing pants like she normally did. She was wearing a skirt, and she felt like that was the only way to keep him from doing it. And the fact that she knew, like the fact that it has obviously happened before, she knew she needed to do that. And apparently this other woman who had been in the meeting with them commented on it afterwards to her, and she explained that was just part of working with John Lasseter. I was like, that's so disgusting. Like, that's so sad that that it, because of what you in particular had to wear that day, that you really had to watch it with him. Like, you shouldn't have to feel that way around your boss.
It's really terrible, and not to say that it's only women who are victimized by this. Plenty of men get treated this way too, and especially people who are LGBT. Many people in power will threaten to out their position, out their sexuality, and who they are.
Yeah, and it can always go the other direction too. Women in power can do it to men. It is a gross abuse of power that needs to stop.
And basically, how it should be is the workplace is the workplace. If you meet someone who you work with outside of work and you grab, some coffee or whatever, and you hit it off and you have fun outside of work, and you get together, that stays outside of work. Even if it doesn't work out, that stays outside of work. You do not talk about what you do outside of work at work. If you hook up with someone that you work with outside of work and it doesn't work out well, that should not affect each other's status at their job. That should not affect anything about the job. Or even if it does work out, no one should be saying that, oh, things worked out because they got into a thing together.
Right. So it just makes me so disappointed in John Lasseter because he's given us so many great movies for years and years and years. And now we find out that this is the kind of man he is. And so I agree that he made the right decision to step down. And he said that they were going to reevaluate what it means to work at Disney and what kind of environment they want to foster, which is great. He admitted, he'd never, because the letter he wrote came out before the accusations did. He didn't directly address the accusations, but he did say that they wanted to reassess things and make sure that they were fostering the right environment. So I applaud him for saying that. I think that's absolutely needed. And I hope that, whatever path he takes next, it includes him getting some help if he needs it, or just knowing not to do it again.
And I do hope this does open more doors for more women to have stories told through the Disney media. Like, I don't know if you know the issue with Brave, why that took so long to be in production and be released, is how many times they changed the writing and changed the directors. Because people wanted it to be a story that would appeal to men, and part of the story was that she was going to get a love interest, for example. But as we know it now, it is a story of, a mother and a daughter. It's that kind of story. Which, of course, may not appeal to guys, because many guys don't have the kind of relationship the way a mother and a daughter do. But it's a very important, special relationship that many mothers and daughters all over the world do have, and should be fairly represented.
Right. So, right now, Disney does need our confidence. They did what they needed to make sure that the culture that was being fostered is addressed, and so we don't know who will be replacing John Lasseter at this time, but whoever it is needs to know that we're with them, that we want more original content, and we will pay them money if they will put out good diverse stories.
And I would like for them to take a cue from the writing staff of Rick and Morty, because as you know, as a Rick and Morty fan, for season 3, they brought on more female writers to help better write the characters of Beth and Summer and whatnot. And of course, they got a lot of backlash from certain Rick and Morty fans. But there's been this kind of idea that women can only write for women and girls, while men can write things for everyone. When that's clearly not true. You can tell when men write things to try to cater to a female demographic, and it feels forced and pushy. It's why there needs to be a balance. So hopefully now they'll reevaluate, there'll be more balance in the writing. So instead of it just being a bunch of men writing and creating things, thinking that it'll appeal to everyone, it'll be people of all genders collaborating and writing things that'll appeal to everyone, with more, female-focused stories that don't have to have romance, and, men being allowed to show more weakness and whatnot.
Right. So I hope all goes well over there. I know that picking a new head of Walt Disney Animation Studios will be a long, arduous task. But I hope that whoever they pick is up to the challenge, and that they will they'll just be ready to take over the helm. And
I wonder if Jeffrey Katzenberg is just chomping at the bit, saying, "Call me back, call me back." Because if you didn't know, from the, I believe, the mid '80s to the mid '90s, Jeffrey Katzenberg was the head of Disney Animation. He was the person who helmed in the Disney Renaissance with movies like The Great Mouse Detective, Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, uh, Lion King, Pocahontas, all of that. And then, he left Disney, went on to form DreamWorks. I'm sure that the man who brought on the Disney Renaissance would love to come back as the head of Disney Animation.
Yeah, so I hope everything goes well over there. We'll definitely be keeping an eye on it. See, vetting. We'll do our own personal vetting of whoever they choose.
I'm just picturing, because, Michael Eisner is no longer the CEO, so no one's going to be insulted because the character Farquaad in Shrek was clearly modeled based on Eisner.
Hmm.
No one will take that insult seriously anymore. Though,
All right. Well,
to be fair, if Katzenberg got fired again, he might model a new character to look like Iger.
all right. Well, I think we have covered everything we were going to cover today. Like I said, today was extremely news heavy. But we will be back to our usual topics in the next few weeks.
There is one more update in the parks. The Tron coaster, slated to open in 2021, I believe, in Tomorrowland in Disney's Magic Kingdom. It's going to be right off to the side of Space Mountain. They have started doing the plans for it, laying out where it's going to go, and setting in where the foundation's going to be and where trees need to be cleared. And it's going to have a pretty big footprint. But the current goal is to have it open and ready for the 50th anniversary birthday of Walt Disney World in 2021.
I know this is an audio medium, so nobody can see my face right now, but upon hearing that we will be getting the Tron coaster, just imagine the you like Krabby Patties, don't you, Squidward, smile on my face. That's about how I feel right now.
Yes. Oh, and some additions have been made to Toy Story Land and Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. In Toy Story Land, a lot of the figures they're working on are in place in the park, such as Buzz Lightyear over by, I think there's a ride with the little alien characters, things like a saucer spin. And then the Slinky Dog coaster, the figures with Jesse and Rex are up. And they're working on getting Woody set up. He's going to be at the entrance to Toy Story Land. And then in Star Wars Galaxy's Edge, the final construction steel beams, the tallest one, are currently all being signed by all the cast members who worked on it and were present for the construction. So then they can begin to start the outer construction, everything around it.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see it. I will have to. I want to go back soon. I just want to go back.
Oh, and some scenes have been added to Star Tours to coincide with Episode 7 and Episode 8. There's a couple of scenes where you land on Jakku and you land on another planet that is featured in Episode 8. So that's in there. And they have announced the name of the planet that Galaxy's Edge is on. It begins with a B. I cannot pronounce it. But there is a planet. You can look it up, and it's one that exists on the edge of the galaxy. It used to be used as a trading post, but ever since lightspeed and hyperspeed got invented, it's hardly visited anymore, except smugglers, rogues, and people in the Resistance.
I have both my cousin and one of my very good friends are huge Star Wars fans. So if anyone will know how to pronounce that name, it'll be them. I'll have to ask him about it.
So yeah, there is some slow news in the Disney parks. Of course, over the holiday weekend on ABC and Disney Channel, there was a special about what's going on in the parks, and there will be another one on Christmas. And right now in Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom and Disneyland in Florida, you can go to the Heart Ticket event for the Mickey's Very Merry Christmas Party. And in Epcot, they are doing holidays around the world. And,
that sounds like fun.
And in the MGM Studios, or should I say, the Hollywood Studios, they are doing some special decorations and light shows for the holidays.
Aw, man, I wish I could be there. Happiest place on earth for Christmas time would be awesome.
Absolutely. So yeah, there is one more thing I should cover. If you do go see Coco, instead of the usual Pixar short before it, the short instead is called Olaf's Frozen Adventure. It's longer than typical short. I'd say it's about 15-20 minutes, and it follows the adventure of Olaf when he discovers that because Anna and Elsa were secluded in their castle for so many years after the incident with Elsa hurting Anna with her powers, that they don't really have any family traditions for Christmas. So he goes on a journey to find them some holiday traditions all over Arendelle. Hijinks ensue. There's 4 brand new songs. All the characters are wearing beautiful new outfits, and the original cast is back. So that's another good reason to go see Coco, because you'll get to see some Frozen before that. And hopefully that Frozen short will either be put on TV during Christmas time as a holiday special, or sold on DVD.
I was about to say, I smell a holiday special for that.
I hope so. Because it really does look like something that they should put on ABC or Disney Channel as a holiday special. So
right, I would say maybe next year. Yeah, maybe next year they'll do it.
Alright, so yeah, that definitely about covers it for this week. Sorry, it's been kind of a slow and a little bit of a somber week with all that news, but it's been the holidays. We've been busy with family, as I'm sure you've been. But we'd like to wish you all happy holidays, and that you had good luck if you did any holiday shopping this weekend, and we got that Cyber Deals week to come. Don't go overboard there. Now, if you would like to gift anyone the gift of Reimagining the Magic, be sure to email all your friends and family links to our podcast. We'd greatly appreciate that gift. And
we're free.
Yeah, we are free. And if you appreciate us and you'd like to gift us anything, you can always message us on the Facebook page or tweet at us, and we could definitely set up a way for you to either donate a little something or send us a gift. You don't have to. We're not asking you to, but if you feel the need to, we definitely would appreciate it, and we'll give you a shout out in a future podcast.
Right. And just a little bit of news that I'd like to throw and plug at the end of this. Soon, we're not quite sure how soon yet, we will actually be starting up a second podcast. And this one goes a little bit more into my area of expertise, which is Pokemon. We are going to be Rare Candy Radio, and we will be our main thing is we are going to do rewatches of the classic anime series, starting way back in episode 1 in Kanto, and we'll be talking about just our general reactions to the episodes. And since this year is the 20th anniversary of the anime, it's going to be nice to go ahead and kick it off this year and just go back and see how well they hold up and just talk about Pokemon.
And she's really gonna laugh at me at how little I remember about the Pokemon anime and all the stuff I forgot and all the stuff I've confused, because aside from some random Pokemon from other generations, I really only know Gen 1.
Man, you Gen 1-er.
I am a total Gen 1-er. Everything after that I get confused. I'm like, what's that? When's that from? Why does that look weird? Why does that look like a bag of trash? What's going on?
So the plan with Rare Candy Radio is we are going to obviously be watching the series. I don't know exactly how far we will go into the series. I would assume that if we can make it all the way to current with Sun and Moon, we will. It may take us a few years, but we would do that, and then we'll cover Pokemon news. We'll cover new games, and we'll do some game reviews, and it'll be fun. It'll just be good Pokemon fun. So we'll be Rare Candy Radio. We are set up on Twitter, and I have been running the Rare Candy. This was actually supposed to happen last year, but it kind of fell through just with I was planning a wedding, and it just kind of got to the point where it was just too much at the time. And but I have been running the Rare Candy Radio Facebook page for about a year now. So if you would like to join us over there, you can go ahead and sign. You can go ahead and click the like button, and we should be launching that sometime in the next few weeks.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing I'd like to throw out there to all of our listeners, and it's kind of an idea I had, to avoid copyright, though, if you would be interested in us doing kind of a semi-live commentary of Disney movies and riffing on them. But due to copyright reasons, we would not be able to, play the movie where you could see it or play the audio. Basically how we do it is we'd record it, and then we would let you know when the time sequence starts. So then on your device, on your TV, through your Netflix account, or however you have the movie, you can then start it and then listen to us with our commentary and riffing as you watch it on your own device.
Right, we'll do it riff track style.
So if that's something that interested you, let us know through Facebook or Twitter or whatever. You can find our email. Our email is listed on our Facebook page. You can also find it on the About section for our YouTube channel. We're easy to find. Just reach out and contact us. And again, we are on Facebook as ReImagine the Magic, on Twitter as ReImagine the Magic, on Tumblr as ReImagine the Magic, and we are called ReImagining the Magic.
Yeah. Oh, and we are on Reddit too. I don't know how much Katie Reddits. I'm around on Reddit, so I mean, like, if you pop into the subreddit, I'll probably pop in and say hello. So.
Yep, and as we mentioned earlier, if you go to our Facebook page, we do have a group. It's called ReImagining the Magic Gathering. Feel free to join and start a conversation, whether it's about the podcast itself or a topic you heard in the podcast and like to elaborate on. We would love to hear from you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and just a reminder, you can always follow me on Twitter personally. I am at writer J.A. Yates. That's YEATES. And like I said, I don't bite. Come and join me.
And I am also on Twitter at XOXOKYATTO. I don't tweet that often on that account because I'm kind of lazy, but I am there if you want to reach out. I also have a Facebook page where if you go into the search function on Facebook and type in KYATTO, that'll take you right to the page. My main picture is me dressed as Spider-Gwen. It's all about cosplay and modeling and other geeky, fun, nerdy stuff.
All right. Well, that's all the time we've got this week.
And we definitely thank you for tuning in. We're going to be back doing this same bat time, same bat place next week with a whole different fun topic. Hope you had a fun time, and thank you so much for everyone who has subscribed and listens regularly and keeps in contact. And we will hear from you and see you next week. Bye!
Bye-bye!